We have another round of applause for Dan Schipper and James Cham. So when we started to put together the agenda for this event, we knew we wanted to have one of our sessions be a case study where we focus on one company and really dig into the different ways they're using GenAI at work. And when we started to do that, I started to think about all the different companies that we've spoken to over the years at Charter, and one that immediately came to mind at the cutting edge was ServiceNow. So I first learned about ServiceNow and how they're using GenAI in 2023 for an article I was writing for Charter. And I think at that time you had something like a dozen use cases into production, and at the time, like they were very, very good, way ahead of where others were at. But I know the numbers increased a lot since then. So I'm very, very happy to have with us today Kellie Romack, the Chief Digital Information Officer at ServiceNow. Kellie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. So glad to be here, and great, exciting presenters so far. I hope to tell you guys a story about how we're using it internally, how we're getting smarter, how we're learning, and we're leading for our customers.
It's great. We're obviously going to dive into all of the different ways that ServiceNow is using it, but I actually want to borrow a theme from the last panel first and talk a little bit about how you're using it. So can you just tell everyone a little bit about how you're using GenAI in your role as Chief Digital Information Officer?
Oh, I use it every single day. I believe, and my team knows this very deeply, I believe we have to understand the technology, educate ourselves in the technology. We're using GenAI search across for every employee is using it every single day. So we're seeing saturations well over 80%, right, in our company. I mean, we've had 12 million, I think, just so far, GenAI results, right, come back from our employees using it every day. I use it every day. We also pay attention, right? We look at the feedback. We get better. The models learn. We also put our knowledge to work as well to make things better. So I think whoever said up here earlier, you have to dig in, roll up your sleeves, and get busy with it. Absolutely.
So I heard a number recently that was ServiceNow has 55 use cases in production, but then you told me that, yeah, you're way past that at this point. So you're using it in a lot of different ways and kind of across the company.
We are.
To start off, can you just give everyone like a high-level overview of how ServiceNow is using GenAI?
You bet. So we look across. So it's my job as a CDIO. I don't just run technology. I need to understand our business, right? All four corners of our business, whether it's HR, all the way to our sales teams, to our finance teams, to our technology teams, right, across the board. So we broke it down into three major categories. Requester, you all are requesters. When you request information, you gain information, you want information. Then fulfillers, whether I'm fulfilling a technology ticket for equipment, I'm fulfilling an HR request, or I'm fulfilling a customer request, right? And then we have developers. So we've looked at it in those three broad categories, and then we can put metrics to it, right? We're seeing our developers be 20% more productive. That's a huge number from an engineering perspective. Our customers, we're able for our customer support engineers, we're seeing the throughput 37%, right? More throughput from our customer service engineers to help our customers. And again, our employees, like I already said, we've got almost everybody using it, everyone requesting, and the results is definitely there.
What area of the business or function would you say has changed the most over the past couple of years because of AI?
I would say, I mean, obviously, technology is we live it every day, right? I would say we have seen transformation with our finance organization. Our CFO is amazing, and our CHRO is amazing. They both great women leaders that dig in and they raise their hand. And that's so important, right? As a technology leader, I have to understand their business challenges. So they raise their hand to lean in, and then we partner and we unify. One of my favorite examples. Yeah. So our sellers, we have lots of sellers in go-to-market. They always want to know what their sales comp is. So that was a 4-day process. Hey, what's my update? Where am I? So we've taken that from 4 days to 10 seconds. I mean, we have transformed the finance. It's a way better, right? And sellers get a way better experience. So we've changed the experience for people, and we've created so much efficiency.
And how does that work? Is that like enterprise search? They just ask a...
Yeah, we just have it's a GenTech, right? We have, or it's our GenAI, right? That we have, we've plugged in all of it's data. Right? The data, it's the logic, and we get the outcomes.
And what are some of the other ways that the finance department at ServiceNow is using it?
Oh, absolutely. So we use it all the time, right? So our finance organization use it to summarize different numbers, summarize reports, do predictions, right? We have all kinds of different things. HR, obviously, anything you have to do from employee perspective so that we've reduced those cases. And in IT, my goal this year is to have 0 support desk. And what that means is it's all agents, right? And then everything else would be an escalation or an elevation. So
what do these agents look like? Like how much can they handle on their own? What do they need to pass on to human employees at ServiceNow?
Sure. The way we think about it is we have multiple agents. We have so many different agentic use cases in production right now. Over probably 150. Every day it changes. We have something going out every week. We've got a couple of agentic use cases in production too, right? So we have multiple agents. And as you guys know, right, agentic is creating that experience for that user and creating that agentic experience that's made up of multiple agents. My favorite one.
Yeah.
Can I share my favorite one? We just
Please,
launched
yeah.
it last week. I'm so proud of our team if they're watching. So performance use cases. So we serve thousands and thousands of customers. So anytime you're using technology software, right, performance, whether is it your internet, is it your Wi-Fi, is it your connection, is it your hardware, multiple scenarios. So we've taken performance use cases and we've reduced the amount of time it takes to get back to our customers by 50%. And so in just 1 week of data, we've seen a huge uplift. Those are really complex use cases. And our customer service agents, much happier. Our customers, much happier, right? And again, we always have a human in the loop because we still have a human in the loop because we need to make sure, right, we're providing the right and accurate information.
And you've named at this point a few different use cases. What would you say, like if you had to pick across the organization, lots of use cases, like what are like your 3 favorites?
My 3 favorites. Okay. Let's see here. One of my favorite, obviously, is our agentic search, right? Or our genAI search, rather. So it gives us, it's a great way if you want to know information, like we talked about summarizing something easily. If you want to write something, if you want to link to something, if you want to go to an application, or you want help, right? It helps you can start the workflow and can help you right away. So that's one.
What's like an example of like how someone would use that?
Oh, I use it every day. Let's see. So right now we're in our ACR cycle, which is our cycle for review, right? And working on compensation. So I've used it to help me navigate. Okay, right. When are things due? Where do I need to go? Where do I put this in? Right. So I don't have to ask anybody or look through emails or look through Teams messages. I just type my question. And it gives me the answer I need to know. So that's one. Another great one that we've done, we're made up of a lot of engineers and a lot of go-to-market sellers. And so for our go-to-market, I've already talked about sales comp. Another one that we did is we created one place on their mobile phone. We call it Sales Hub, and we use it on my ServiceNow. So we've created one place for anybody in our company to go, use the technology, right? And use GenAI search. And we've created something called Sales Hub. So our sellers can get all the information about their customers all on their phone, summarize, help them get their meeting notes, as we heard earlier in the talk, right? Take their meeting notes, turn them into actions, right? Turn them into outcomes, turn them into next steps. And then we synthesize and understand that information and recommend to the seller, we think these are your 3 best actions to take with that customer. And we hyper-personalize it for that seller, for that customer, for that industry. Nothing blanket. It's all personalized and hyper-personalized for that situation. I love that. It's just such a win for everybody.
And where does that usually show up in like a seller's workflow?
Well, that's a great question. Can I tell you something we've learned and then we've made a mistake on before, right? Because we are not perfect, right? We are doing our very best every single day. So we created some things that were outside of their normal workflow. So a little bit of swivel chair, that doesn't work. It has to be in the workflow of what you're doing. So that's exactly what we did. Where they show up every day is where the technology is and where the GenAI is.
I see. And then so your 3rd favorite use case?
Oh gosh, let's see here. My 3rd favorite use case, I think another really great use case is that performance one I talked about. And again, we just launched it. It's really exciting. Another one in the engineering space is we put it to work for some of our lower level cases, like that we get high volumes of. We've seen a 13% improvement of these really high volume use cases that have come through for support engineers. And 13%, I'll take that all day.
Yeah.
So.
How are these like different use cases identified at ServiceNow? Do you like crowdsource ideas from employees? Do you have like a task force that kind of identifies different opportunities in the organization. There's like a lot of different approaches I know companies take. And what are you doing at ServiceNow?
All of it. Everybody in here has a great idea, right? So it's democratized. So we love to hear from our engineers. We love to hear from our employees. We love to hear from our customers, great ideas. So what we'll do is we'll do a lot of things. So yes, we crowdsource it. We also, what problems are we trying to solve? Right? We don't want to create technology for technology's sake. What's the outcome we're trying to achieve, the problem we're trying to solve? So we focus on the business problem. So I lean in with my business partners, my C-level business partners, to understand how do we change their world, like recruiting. Recruiting is a complicated thing. So can we automate that to get folks scheduled for interviews, for get people through their onboarding? So we use things like that. So we take it and we apply it to real world problems.
Yeah.
And then we rethink the work. Right? Reimagine the work. We are not just here to automate A to B. No way. Right? Reimagine the work, evolve the work.
In the last panel, they talked about the importance of giving employees kind of the freedom to explore a little bit, experiment with the tools, find use cases that are useful for themselves. What does that look like at ServiceNow?
So we're customer zero. So my team, I feel very fortunate that I run the traditional IT organization, and we're also what we call customer zero. So I and my team run ServiceNow on ServiceNow. So we get everything before any of our customers get it, and we put it to work and we put it to action. So what it looks like is us understanding it very deeply and able to improve the product, and then able to be a wonderful showcase for our customers, right? And make the product better overall. So that customer zero, we are knee deep, right, in everything that we do.
Can you talk a little bit about, you mentioned that you're measuring ROI on some of this. So how are you doing that? This was like a real thing that companies were focused on last year and leading into this year. Like, we're spending a lot of money, we're buying all the tools, and we're not really seeing it on our bottom line. Like, how are you measuring ROI?
Absolutely. Well, I'm an engineer at heart, so we absolutely measure it, right? Because we don't create technology for technology's sake. So you heard on our earnings call yesterday, we have something called the AI Control Tower. Because yes, we need to create it. We need to understand adoption. Who's using it? What's the throughput and how much? So in our first 120 days of GenAI, we did about $10 million. Now we've annualized that to $325 million, right? And we've seen work effort saved 3 million hours, right, across customers and employees. And those numbers are just growing. So we owe it to our employees, we owe it to our engineers, and we owe it to our customers to show, and our shareholders to show the value of it. So we are measuring everything 100%, and we do it weekly. Like we're taking a look and reflecting on the feedback, the stats. How do we get better every single week?
How are you thinking about like measuring the return on these different things? So like, if you were to talk about like the productivity of a coder, it could be like lines of code written, or it could be like how much they're shipping. And so like, how do you think about that for the different use cases at a ServiceNow?
Well, aggregately, we've seen our engineers, our developers, 20% productivity. And how we think about that, right? So code generation, text to code, great. Well, we all know that none of us really like writing documentation. I don't know. You can raise your hand if you just love it in here. So how do we create that documentation for our engineers, for quality assurance, and then also creating test cases for us, right? Test cases and also stories. It can help us write stories. So we've just seen the application across our engineering and product community absolutely expand, and to get to that aggregate 20% growth of productivity across all those roles.
When I spoke to your colleague, Chris Beatty, who was the former Chief Digital Information Officer, and now he's the Chief Customer Officer at ServiceNow, he called out kind of two modes of thinking about AI right now. He said the first mode is basically like incremental improvements to the way that we currently work because of AI, and the second mode is like reimagining the way that we work for AI. And when I asked him how ServiceNow is approaching the second one, he said that there's currently an exercise underway at ServiceNow, basically trying to reimagine 6 different roles of the organization. So roles like salespeople, roles like engineers, and really kind of thinking through like 3 years from now when AI is infused in everything, what will those roles look like? Can you talk a little bit about that exercise and what you've learned from it so far?
100%. And we're on a journey, right? Again, we're being brave and bold, and we're experimenting because that's really important. You heard it from the earlier panelist. Some of the things that we're doing is sellers don't need to be spending the time at a desktop or on their phone and putting all the information in. We have technology that captures the meeting, takes it to notes, right? Takes it to actions, can put it in our CRM system that we have. So what our goal is that way the seller can spend more time with customers and help the customer and less time on doing the work.
Right.
And then also you'll hear our CEO talk about, Bill, is we have to get away from just the mundane task. Take those off people's plate. And yes, there's productivity, and we talked about a lot of numbers, but I'm a big believer in sentiment. I want we measure our developer sentiment, and we measure our seller sentiment. We measure our employee sentiment and our customers. So seeing that rise and seeing all tides, right, rising all boats, right, is such a wonderful thing at ServiceNow that we're seeing today.
I'm curious, as you're doing this exercise, have you thought about like what role in the organization you think is going to look most different in 3 years?
Wow, a lot. I think almost every role will. And part of it is if you are not asking yourself, how do I reimagine the work? How do I see this differently? You're not doing yourself justice. So that's why you heard Chris talk about the 6 roles, because we're looking at every role across our company. I definitely think engineering will definitely evolve. And I definitely think the workflow, right? Our employees that work on all of our workflow, we're a workflow platform company, but we've added agentic to it. So now it happens with them. It's not magic, it's technology, right? But keeping the human in the loop. So then you think about it, they're not doing the work, they're overseeing the work of the agents. So we hope to have everyone to have their own agent.
What would
Right?
that look like?
Exactly what you would think about it, right? So why wouldn't Jacob have his own agent, right? That helps you when you wake up in the morning, helps you understand what your day looks like, what your calendar looks like. We're pulling those details today. So for our sellers, we go and look at their calendar. We go look at the customers they're going to talk to. We get them ready, right? We're like, this might be a more challenging conversation. Here's a way to help our customers in a better way. Hey, this is a way to help adoption for this customer. So it's just getting that next best action thought through for those users.
And you said you want every employee to have their own agent.
Yeah.
How long do you think before that happens?
Oh, we're real close. I would say, I mean, I think we're going to be able to do it this year. I think it's this year because we're
2025.
going for, yeah. So zero service desk. I mean, we're full court press. It's January. I mean, last time we talked, I was at 50. I'm at 150 counting every week's getting more. We've already put agentic in. And again, we're not perfect. We test, we learn, we grow.
So as we're thinking about the roles that are going to change and the different requirements that you have for roles, like how are you thinking about the skills that you're training or the skills that you're hiring for right now, at least in your department?
Sure. It's education, right? I did a listening session and somebody mentioned, well, is it cheating if I use it? I'm like, absolutely not. It's not cheating. We put our tools to work. Everybody here took some mode of transportation. Am I right? To get here, whether train, bus, car. So we're just using a tool. I look at it as genAI as a tool to help you do your job better. I'm thrilled to see my daughter's in college as a freshman. I'm thrilled to see her using it, right, every day in her work and how it can enhance. It doesn't do it for you, it enhances what you're doing in a better and different way.
Do you ask people when they're joining ServiceNow if they've used GenAI
Oh,
before?
you bet. I ask them a lot of things, right? So I'm former Hilton, I'm former Walmart, and I worked for the awesome company ServiceNow. And when I was with those companies, I ask if you use those brands, and of course we ask if you use the technology. If you're not educating yourself or educating the people you're around, you're not doing anyone favors.
I'm imagining there are some people in the audience that are listening to this and they're like, wow, ServiceNow is doing a lot, but like, yeah, they're ServiceNow. They're a tech company. They
Yeah,
got all the
they are.
resources in the world. They're building AI products. Of course, they're doing this. What's your advice for like small to medium-sized businesses who maybe don't have the resources of ServiceNow, but they do want to start using AI? They want to start seeing the value from it. Where should they start?
Get smart, right? Get educated. Use the tools yourself in your personal lives. I mean, you heard the speakers earlier. I use them all the time. I planned our entire European vacation in 10 minutes with technology. It was awesome, right? So that was last year. Get busy, understand it, and start small. And start small because take the week of data, understand the feedback. Again, we do feedback, both quantitative and sentiment feedback, right? We want to understand the feedback and understand that feedback and then be able to apply it and change it. I think you also have to imagine what's the outcome you want and how do you want the work reimagined? Don't just automate it, reimagine it.
Yeah. Lastly, is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have?
If you didn't ask me, I think probably my favorite thing about what we do internally is being able to serve. I love being able to serve our customers, and I love being able to serve our employees. I love helping people. I don't want it to be scary, right? We want to educate, and I feel like education is the heart of so many things. So we create this really open environment where we give everyone the same types of information. They can go as deep and learn as much as they want because that improves just honestly humankind and the world.
Kellie, thank you for joining us.
Oh, yay. Thank you. This is
Yeah.
great. Yeah.